Today is our opportunity to build a great give marketing plan. We want you all to leave with something, not just a plan, but hopefully some seeds of a big idea or a different idea or some kind of knowledge that will help you not just during the great give, but around the year. And this great give opportunity, we see it as not just an opportunity to raise money during this period, but to approach your year-round marketing a little bit differently. Today's time will be spent, we'll tell you a little bit quickly just about O'Donnell Company. We're going to talk first about digital interaction and how the landscape that we're operating in has changed a bit, and give you hopefully some information that will help you make decisions when you go to make your plan. We're going to be mixing in some case studies so you can see real life examples, and then we're going to work at tables for a period of time, and then we'll share that. So first off, just so you know about O'Donnell Company, the two partners are my brother Dan and myself, and then we're a digital marketing agency, launched about 20 years ago. We're right here in New Haven, and on the next slide you see some of the clients that we've done work for that you would recognize. We do also do some work locally and for regional leaders as well. So just for background, this is to remind us of where we're at. January 1996, for those of you who, like myself, are old enough to remember, we had modems. You remember hearing the little beeps until you could get the connection, and then you're like trying to get the data through. Netscape was the #1 browser. Alta Vista was the #1 search engine. There were less than 1% of the global population had access to the internet, and there were only 100,000 active websites. Now let's fast forward to just 20 years later, so recently past 2016. There are 3.5 billion, 46% of the world is online, and 88% of the US is online. As of March of 2016, we hit over 1 billion active websites, 100,000 to 1 billion. Liken that to when there were like 100,000 cars across the country to like 1 billion cars. That reminds me of a revolution, an actual digital revolution that has occurred as we've watched it. 63% of the US population go online several times per day, and 21% report that they're online almost all the time. Now meanwhile, globally, we know that there's not a lot of growth. Debt's increasing. Overall, in terms of media consumption, people are switching from using their desktops to mobile phone. They want to see everything quickly. It's scrolling by. 81% are using ad blocking software. They're making it really tough for us to get through to them. Video viewership is exploding. We'll see some statistics about that. And advertising dollars are also going up, but not all of it's really being used effectively because there's so many places to put it. It's split over so many things. And each of these is based on often very, very complex algorithms that are changed sometimes 500 times a year, literally constantly. So the top visited websites for the US population, Google is the #1 most visited website. Facebook, #2 website for visits. YouTube, Amazon, Yahoo. So if we look at the digital habits, 20% of total time is spent online and social media, and Facebook alone makes up 14% of time online. It's really stunning, actually. Audiences have overall less time. They're financially strained. They have, no longer is it the time for those of us who can harken back to 1996 when you would have, someone's luxuriously sitting in front of the TV, they've got popcorn, they've got their family, and we can just put this ad forward to them and take 30 seconds or a minute of the time and tell them our story and say, you should be part of this. Actually, while they have the TV on, they are probably fast forwarding through some stuff, or they're getting a barrage of texts, Facebook Messenger, calls. There's calls on the landline. They've got their laptop open that's streaming them ads. Everybody's doing multi-viewing. There's a million things at once that they're looking at. Their attention is split between all these things that they're using. So if you're feeling stressed and you're feeling like, I don't know exactly where to put the dollars or put the time or put the resources, now you know why. Or you may have already known why, but certainly there's some facts here now that prove it. Most of us have half the budget, twice the responsibilities, audiences that feel broke, overworked, and are highly distracted. How successful organizations will expand have very strong branding. Be very, very clear on who you are, what you do, what the benefits of it are, why it matters, and it's got to be clear, concise, and engaging. It has to be made relevant to that audience, and it's got to be done so quickly and so concisely. You have to be able to differentiate this quickly. Digital intelligence, knowing the right tools, assembling the right little set of tools, and putting dollars or resources very carefully towards those, because just because you get some dollars and you say, here's my precious funds, and I put them towards this, they've still got to be used very strategically, because these tools are complex and the algorithms are changing. So just having the intelligence about what you're using. Being accessible, intuitive, and always, sort of driving towards some kind of action. And we'll talk a little bit about this, but we call it meaningful brand interaction, that the way audiences are taking us in is changed. Before, where they had a long segment of time, now we've got to tell our story in snippets over time and among all different ways. We've got to surround them, but just with these little quick snippets, and that's how we can evolve our brand story over time. So we need to know what all those little snippets are that make up our brand story, and then tie them together in a really branded way so they're all connected. Okay, Google, #1 most visited site in the world. 71% of every internet trip starts at Google. So Google is incredibly important. If Google can't find you, this is what we believe, you kind of don't exist, right? Because if someone searches and Google doesn't locate you or think you're important enough, then you're not going to be found. Search engine optimization, which is the work that you do on your website and to align with how Google is judging your site relevance and ability to answer questions in a way, is the search engine optimization. It's whether you have a blog that talks about your topics, it's whether people are clicking on you when they do a search. There's a bunch of things that matter, but that is somewhat of a must-have. Responsive, because Google's looking at whether or not your site can perform on a mobile site, and they're ranking you. They won't even actually look at you if you don't have a mobile version of your website. They won't rank you anymore. That was a change quite some time ago, but you have to be able to perform across different devices. Search engine marketing, that's where you're paying and you're saying, I want to have text ads and display ads or things like that, so if someone searches, I want to come right up. That can have a high return if optimized smartly. It's, that sometimes it's a matter of trying it and seeing what information you can get from it, and analytics are critical, being able to look at them. Facebook, the largest social network in the world. People who are on Facebook are spending more than 40 minutes a day on Facebook. This is a great amount of time where we have an audience who's coming on there to relate and make friends and be social and make connections, which is what we love to do before we ask for dollars. So it's just an interesting thing. When you look at the Facebook audience, and this is what I was saying with, you're going to hear about Instagram and Pinterest and all these, XYZ, the latest. This is going to continue. There's going to be a million of them. Let's look at Facebook. You've got over 90% of the 18 to 29. This might be higher by now, because we did these a couple months ago. So if you're saying, well, the young audience, they're always only going to be on this or this, they're actually, the majority of them are active on Facebook. And these are active online users. You have 79% of the 30 to 49, 50 to 64, 64%, and even 65 plus, you've got over 50%. You can't miss. If you only choose one social tool to be on, you kind of can't go wrong here. It's very popular. Couple of things to remember about social media. We know we can lose control of the message, and we have to be somewhat okay with that, that we're going to allow the users to take our message, share it, add to it, sometimes in ways we don't like, and there's lots around that needs management. And I think it's okay to still say, this is our sandbox, and we kind of decide what we want to hide, what we want to block and what's okay and what's not. And it's okay to have a statement about that. It's okay to have words blocked, people blocked, whatever you feel you need to do to manage that brand, yet still allow some things that aren't necessarily what you would say, some things that might even be negative that you're responding to, having that dialogue with the audience. So that's a balance that each organization has to figure out, of course. Boost or you don't exist, it's one of those things where Facebook is not going to really show your post to almost anyone unless there's a couple dollars behind it at this point. Respond in a timely fashion, Facebook's also looking at that. Create an engagement philosophy. You know, how often are you responding? If people are negative, what is that voice that you want to have back? Do you want to be responsive to different things? Ads and boosted posts, you actually, this is last we checked, I mean, every day things are changing. So last we checked, ads and boosted posts, you cannot turn comments off. So that's something we always have to consider. Facebook algorithms change often, as do Google, and we can leverage the most shared content types. There's always research that can be done to say, on this tool or that tool, what are the most highly shared content types? That's very, very telling, and we'll show you a couple of case studies that illustrate that. And then brand heavily. Don't just repost interesting things. You've got to be you. Like we were saying, the brand story's got to unfold over time. So you want to be connected with whatever you're posting out there. So it doesn't mean that, if you're partners or members or others or industry, it's fine to do some of that. You just have to make sure you have a really nicely branded set of your own messages to go along with it. And then after, at some point, once you get people there, you want to be thinking about, now how do we get them to do what's our next step here? Okay, YouTube, second largest search engine in the world. Not everybody thinks of YouTube as a search engine, but it's actually a search engine, and that's partially because how-to information is probably the highest growing type of content. Not probably, it has the highest growth in terms of types of content. So it's informational. Anybody who wants to know how to do something doesn't want to read instructions. I never liked them anyway, but now people want to see a video about how to set up the Barbie house, how to ride the bus, how to do anything. So that is why it's become such a large audience. Here's the audience for YouTube. Once again, incredibly strong across the board. You can't miss if you're doing videos or somehow engage with YouTube. Instagram. So here's one where you say there's 3.5 billion likes a day on this thing. This is a busy, busy place to be. 90% of the users are under age 35. Certainly you can hit a youth market. But let's look at the audience. Look at this comparatively. You've got 1% of the 65 plus, 6% of 50 to 64, 18% of 30 to 49, and 37% of 18 to 29. I mean, it's actually pretty small, right? And there's a ton of these. This is one of the bigger small ones. So if you dive in there and you're not doing fantastic, I wouldn't get that upset about it. Now, LinkedIn's a very different kind of social platform. 3 million companies have accounts. The average CEO has 930 connections. So people that are doing it, it's very, very helpful for certain aspects. The audience here, though, you can see, again, it's pretty small. It's still, again, niche-y, right? Just like the last one, kind of niche-y. So you have Facebook, Google, YouTube, you've got everybody, really. A good representation of everyone. And then you have things like Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, more niche-y. Pinterest would be the same. Twitter, 500 million tweets sent out each day. That's 6,000 tweets a second. Once again, it sounds really busy. There's a lot of engagement going on, but look at the audience. 31% of these guys, 19% of the 30 to 49. You've got 9% of 50 to 64. Not only that, and we think Twitter's great. It's fantastic for things like events or anything where you need an up-to-date status, things that are going on where you're advocating for something. There's some things that it naturally lends to. But when you look across all of the social tools, the themes, the threads, most commonly on, say, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, are labeled as positive. Twitter is the one that ranks as having more negative. So actually, things that go on in the world that are bad, events, some weird celebrity stuff, they're just negative. So people are going on there for a different reason. They're going on to Facebook and Instagram. They want to laugh, they want to connect, they want to be inspired, they want to feel better about their day, they want to take a little break from whatever's going on. They don't want to really learn, they don't really want to be preached to, they don't really want to be sold to. On Twitter, they're looking for something different. And that might be something that's like a shocking or a negative thing that works better on Twitter than on these other tools.